Who knew a writer would teach a killer how to commit the perfect murder? In 1930, right here in the Murchison, a man named Snowy Rowles took a fictional blueprint for disposal and turned it into a triple homicide reality. He thought the desert was his accomplice. He thought the perfect crime meant leaving no trace. But out here, the ground never forgets. And today, I'm going to show you why. I'm your host, Chris. Join me for Chasing the Gold Rush, a Chrisundertaking series. Out here, we're not just hunting for color in the pan, we are hunting for the truth hidden in the dirt, the stories the desert tried to bury, and the history that refuses to stay dead. Let's get to work. The Australian Outback doesn't just keep secrets, it swallows them. In the 1930s, in the vast, scorched wilderness of Western Australia's Murchison district, a man could walk over the horizon and simply cease to exist. Back then, they called it the three thirsts: heat, exhaustion, and the lack of water. If you disappeared, the desert was the prime suspect. But in 1930, the desert wasn't the killer. It was a witness. Imagine a crime so calculated, so meticulous that the police couldn't even prove a murder had happened because they couldn't find a single scrap of a body. No blood, no bone, no clothes. Just empty space where a human being used to be.
Now, imagine if that perfect crime didn't come from a criminal mastermind. Imagine if it came from the pages of a detective novel that hadn't even been published yet.
Did a novelist accidentally teach a killer how to commit the perfect murder?
Someone's been reading too many detective novels.
This is the chilling true story of the Sands of Windy, the Murchison murders, and the man who thought he could outsmart the ground itself. Our story begins with Arthur Upfield. Before he was a world-famous novelist, he was a man of the bush. He was a boundary rider working the lonely stretches of the rabbit-proof fence.
3 days old, moving west.
Upfield was writing a new book called The Sands of Windy. His hero was Detective Inspector Napoleon Bonaparte, or Boney, a man who used indigenous tracking skills to solve impossible crimes. But Upfield had a problem. He was stuck. He needed a perfect murder for Boney to solve. He needed a way to make a body vanish so completely that even his brilliant detective would be baffled. In late 1929, Upfield sat around a campfire with his fellow bushmen.
What if we follow the ridge up to the plateau?
Tossing ideas into the flames. He asked them, how would you get rid of a body in the scrub? One man, a stockman named George Ritchie, gave him the answer. It was gruesome. It was clinical. It involved high-temperature fires, sieving the ashes for metal buttons or gold teeth, dissolving the remaining bone fragments with acid, and then, finally, crushing what was left into dust and scattering it into the four winds. Upfield loved it. It was the perfect plot device.
The plot is perfect.
He talked about it constantly. He debated the logistics at every camp along the fence. He even offered a pound to anyone who could find a flaw in the method. But there was one man listening who wasn't looking for a flaw. He was looking for a manual. His name was Snowy Rowles. Snowy Rowles was a man who went by many names, mostly because he was a fugitive from the law. He was quiet, capable, and he had been right there in those campfire circles, listening to Upfield describe exactly how to make a human being disappear. In early 1930, the method left the pages of fiction and entered the real world. First, there was James Ryan. He was a prospector, last seen leaving the town of Kew in a truck with Snowy Rowles. Ryan was never seen again. When people asked Snowy where Ryan went, he shrugged. He headed off to find better ground, he'd say. But people noticed because now Snowy was now driving Ryan's truck. Then came George Lloyd, another friend of Snowy's, another man who vanished into the shimmering heat. Soon Snowy was seen using Lloyd's equipment, but George was nowhere to be found. Finally, there was Louis Carron, a New Zealander who had come to the goldfields with dreams of striking it rich. He vanished in May 1930. But this time, Snowy got cocky. He didn't just take Carron's gear, he tried to cash Carron's paycheck.
No, I can't cash that.
The authorities were starting to take notice a pattern. 3 men gone, 1 man remaining. But Detective James Richardson had a massive problem. In 1930, the law was clear. Corpus delicti. No body, no crime. Snowy Rowles knew the law, and he knew the windy method. He believed that as long as he kept his mouth shut and the fire hot enough, he was untouchable. The investigation that followed is a masterclass in what we call reading the ground.
I know what Snowy was testing.
Detective Richardson knew about Upfield's book. He knew the theory Snowy was testing. He headed out to the 183-mile hut on the rabbit-proof fence. He didn't look for a grave, he looked for a fire. He found a patch of ground that had been scorched. To the untrained eye, it was just an old campfire. But Richardson sieved every spoonful of that dirt.
Not just a campfire.
He spent weeks in the sun, hunched over, shaking a wire mesh. Snowy had been meticulous, but the Outback is a hard place to keep a secret. No matter how hot the fire, some things endure. And Richardson found them, a dental bridge that a local dentist identified as belonging to Louis Carron.
The dentist was right.
And finally, a wedding ring. The perfect crime had failed. The ground had held onto the truth just long enough for someone to look. Snowy Rowles was arrested. In a twist of irony, Arthur Upfield, the man who wrote the blueprint, was called as a witness for the prosecution. Upfield's Sands of Windy wasn't just a book anymore. It was evidence. Snowy Rowles was hanged in 1932. Arthur Upfield became a bestseller. But for those of us who spend our lives in remote corners of this country, the story of the Murchison murders isn't just a piece of trivia.
It's a warning.
The men Snowy Rowles targeted all had one thing in common. They were isolated. They were out there without a plan, traveling with someone they didn't truly know, in a landscape that makes communication impossible. In the 1930s, they didn't have GPS or satellite trackers. Today, we do, and yet people still go missing in the Murchison every year. The desert doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care if you're a novelist or a prospector. If you go out there unprepared, you're putting your life in the hands of the elements, and potentially in the hands of people you shouldn't trust. When I talk about reading the ground, I'm not just talking about finding gold. I'm talking about understanding the story the landscape is telling you, where the old shafts are hidden, where the water used to flow, and where someone might be trying to hide something. But the most important lesson from Snowy Rowles: never go out without a plan. The Sands of Windy is a reminder that the perfect crime is a ghost story we tell ourselves. The earth is a ledger. Every footstep, every fire, and every disturbance leaves a mark that can be read, even decades later. Whether you're a fan of true crime or a serious prospector, respect the Outback. It's a place of incredible riches, but it has a long memory. If you want to learn how to stay safe in these remote areas and how to truly read the ground so you don't become a story in the sand, check out our family prospecting videos. Stay safe, keep your eyes on the ground, and always have a way home. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode of Chasing the Gold Rush, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps me keep these stories alive. I want to hear from you too. Drop a comment below and let me know which piece of Outback history or which lost story you want me to tackle next. I'm Chris, this is Chrisundertaking, and I'm out. Heavy pans, everyone.
I see it.
See it?
I got one.
You got one for sure.
Oh, no, look at the.
Yeah, let me pan out the rest of this. We'll see how many you got.
Three.
Got 3 pieces so far. Uh-oh, Chloe might be beating you, Luca.
I'm coming for you.
Mama's taking it down.